My name is Margot Rieg. I am the voter service chairperson for the LA County League of Women Voters, which is a group of 12 local leagues in LA County who deal primarily with county issues, whereas the local leagues deal with issues that are city-based. We heard earlier that LA has a hybrid form of judicial elections, that we have most judges who are appointed by the governor based on recommendations from a judicial panel and a judicial qualifications panel. But there are some offices that are filled by election because that office, the sitting judge retired or chose to leave the bench at a point which was too close to an election for the governor to appoint a replacement. Tonight we have 3 what are known as open or vacant seats where the 4 where the sitting judge is not there was not a sitting judge. The challengers are each running, they're running against other lawyers who would like to be judges. We also have 3 situations where a sitting judge was challenged by a candidate, an attorney, and 2 of those offices are on this panel. You'll notice that we have 2 vacant seats, and one of the vacant seats belongs to Mr. Judge Ray Santana, who has been on medical leave recently and intends to return to the bench in June. The other is Judge James Cato, who had a very heavy schedule and was not able to make it tonight. And we have a challenger, Mr. Herbert Yoon, who was not able to arrange his schedule so that he could be here tonight. And I do have a statement from Mr. Cato, if I can find it. We have tried over the last 10 or 15 years to do judicial forums or judicial interviews to better help our voters learn about judicial candidates so that they are better able to make an informed decision when they cast their ballot. We are also sponsored this evening not only by the League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan political organization that does not support candidates for any office, but we are the students of Cal State Los Angeles organized this forum. The Pre-Law Society, the Political Science Student Association, and the Criminal Justice Student Association worked very hard to put this whole event together. They made all the contacts with the initial contacts with the candidates, made arrangements for the facilities and for making sure that everyone had parking and so forth. And we really want to give a hand to the students who have devoted countless hours to making this forum come off. So thank you very much. And I also want to thank the Pat Brown Institute because they have mentored and have provided meeting space and have provided a lot of guidance for these students as they're working on putting together this big event. Now, we are on panel 2. If I can find it. And it will function just the same way that panel 1 functioned, if you were here for that. Unfortunately, I can't find the pages for panel 2. As you can see, we have 3 different seats that are being represented on this particular panel. And the seats are for Office 60, Mr. Stepan Bagdasarian, and his opponent is Judge James Cato, who regrets that he's unable to attend. And I did have a statement, but I can't find it. Then we have, is it there? We have Office 84, which is a vacant seat, and the candidates who are vying for that seat are Javier Perez, Susan Jung Townsend, and Aaron Weissman, and Herbert Yoon, who is not able to be with us this evening. And finally, Office 120, the judge is Ray Santana, who, as I said earlier, is currently on leave, and Eric O. Ibisi. Now, thank you very much. Judge Cato said, "For 25 years as a Superior Court judge, I have fought for justice and equity. Thank you for facilitating discussion on these topics amongst voters and judicial candidates. Due to a previous engagement, I regretfully cannot attend. I send my wholehearted appreciation to the League of Women Voters and to Cal State University, Los Angeles." So thank you. This evening we will open our event with a question which the candidates were given ahead of time as a means of helping them to introduce themselves to you. The question is, what personal qualities and experience best equip you to serve as a Superior Court judge? And the candidates will have 1 minute to answer this question. We will begin on the left part of the table with Mr. Bagdasarian.
Good evening, and thank you for the League of Women Voters and Cal State LA students for organizing this event. I've been a lawyer for the last 27 years, and I've been a businessman, and now it's time for public service. As I'm sure you will hear from the other candidates, a lot of them come from being deputy district attorneys. I bring other qualities that are as important for the bench. I bring diversity to the bench. As I said, I've been a lawyer for the last 27 years. I've had offices in Los Angeles, São Paulo, Brazil. I represented clients from all over the world in civil matters. I've done immigration work, immigration deportation hearings, where I represented people with all kinds of immigration issues, as well as business and civil issues. And I've also conducted many arbitrations and mediations for LA County Bar Association. I'm just as eligible and qualified to run for this office. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Susan Jung Townsend.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, League of Women Voters and Cal State LA, for providing such a beautiful venue for this forum. My name is Susan Jung Townsend. I'm one of the first of the deputy district attorneys that will be speaking tonight. I have been in the DA's office for almost 18 years. I spent the first half trying very serious cases, everything from sales of narcotics, assault cases, domestic violence, gang cases, and murders. But I spent the last 10 years doing mostly fraud crimes that have included fake identities and crimes regarding consumers. More importantly, though, what I think most people want to know when they meet candidates is what I've been doing outside the office. I've devoted a tremendous amount of time in community service, addressing issues like truancy and also teaching constitutional law in low-performance schools. I very much look forward to the discussions we're going to have today about that transition, moving from being an advocate and being voted in to be a jurist. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Javier Perez.
Good evening. My name's Javier Perez, and I'm running for seat number 84. I've been a deputy district attorney for over 25 years. I've had a variety of different assignments in the office, including major narcotics and violent crimes. I've tried all kinds of different kinds of cases, including murder, gang cases, sex cases, crimes of domestic violence, and obviously major narcotics. 6 years ago, Steve Cooley saw certain qualities in me, qualities that are essential to making a good judge. That's the temperament, decisiveness, leadership skills, and he promoted me to deputy in charge, supervising the second busiest court in Los Angeles County. That's East Los Angeles Court. 3 years later, Jackie Lacey saw those same traits in me and transferred me to the busiest area court in Los Angeles County, which is West Covina Superior Court, which last year alone our office filed over 10,000 cases. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Aaron Weissman.
Thanks very much. My name is Aaron Weissman. I'm the lone non-district attorney running for this seat. A couple weeks ago, we were at another event, and retired Judge Bob Bonner set forth his top 5 traits for a good judge. He said they were good temperament, intelligence, when being learned in the law, an ability to listen and communicate, an ability to decide with an open mind, and incorruptibility. I've spent 35 years practicing law and on many, many phases of law throughout Los Angeles. More importantly, or equally importantly, I've served as a judge pro tem for many of the civil courts in the Glendale and Burbank district some years ago, wearing a robe, making decisions, running a courtroom, writing decisions, and making determinations on civil cases for 4 judges when they were on vacation, subject to the approval of the attorneys who would come before me. That experience no one else can bring to the table. It's a program that hasn't existed in years. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will hear from Eric Ibisi.
Good evening. My name is Eric Ibisi. I'm running for seat number 120. Why am I qualified? I've been practicing law for 29 years, all around the state, from San Francisco to Oakland to San Diego, LA County, Riverside. But for the last 20 years, I've been a judge, I've been a temporary judge for LA County Superior Court. And those 20 years, I have sat in just about every court in this county of LA, from Van Nuys to Santa Monica to Inglewood. So for the last 20 years, I've had the experience of having to put on a robe and actually hear a case and make a decision. And that's why I'm saying that I'm qualified to run for this seat. Thank you.
Thank you. The next phase of our forum is hearing questions from our student panelists. And the first 2 questions, we will make an attempt to give 90 seconds to each. And after that, all the questions will be 60 seconds. The students represent the organizations that are sponsoring this event. And the first question will come, do you ladies want, or people want to do it in order, same order or reverse order? Ijaz will be first, okay. The first question will be asked by Ijaz Brooks, who is a member of the Political Science Student Association.
Who are your judicial role models and why?
Well,
And for this, we will begin with Ms. Townsend, move consecutively down to Mr. Ibisi, and end with Mr. Bagdasarian.
Your question was, who are my traditional role models and why?
Yes.
Judicial
Oh,
role
judicial
models.
role models. Well, I've essentially spent the last 18 years in a courtroom. So, and most of that time has been in downtown Los Angeles. I have seen so many judges come and go. You know, the kind of judges that I have tremendous respect for and whom I would want to emulate are really the ones that are, just as Mr. Weitzman was characterizing, Judge Bonner laid out what the foundations are. Somebody who is decisive, intelligent, incorruptible, and has good temperament. In downtown, luckily, there have been, bevy of such judicial officers. I was just interviewed in the Met News, and I spoke about this one judge, George Lamelli, and it's because he really understands the difference between a jurist and advocates. Your job as a judge when you are in a courtroom is to make sure that the court process is observed, everyone has an opportunity to make their argument, and each side is given their due respect and their opportunity to present their case. And that is going to be the biggest challenge, quite frankly, for most attorneys to become a judge. But I think somebody who is appearing in court all the time is going to understand that distinction, and that's the kind of judge I would want to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. Mr. Perez.
I'm going to go back quite a bit to my time in Norwalk when I tried most of my cases. And two of the judges that I respected a great deal were Judge Dewey Falcone and Judge Simpson. And they embodied those characteristics that Judge Bonner had spoken of. They had the right temperament, they had the legal knowledge, they treated every person in the courtroom with respect. I would strive as a judge to model myself after those two judges. Downtown, there's another judge right now, Judge Jose Sandoval, that I appeared in front of doing calendar for about a year. He also embodied those characteristics. Fair, impartial, treated everybody with respect, and he had a command of the courtroom. He ran a calendar efficiently, yet at the same time gave everybody a fair opportunity to have a fair hearing, especially the defendants in court and all the parties in court. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Mr. Weissman?
Okay. As role models, I think the first one I would mention is retired California Appellate Court Justice, Presiding Justice of the Second District, Richard Schauer. Justice Schauer, when he was a Superior Court judge, was kind enough to swear me in as an attorney in 1981. He then worked his way up from the Superior Court to the Court of Appeal, and I've maintained a wonderful relationship with him over the years. Always a gentleman, and always one that made you feel comfortable in a courtroom. Another one like that, unfortunately no longer with us, the late Judge Paul Boland, who sat in Department 36 downtown. He was the first judge I ever met, and may have been the first judge downtown to ever ask, when we appeared in court, that we give the clerk 2 business cards. And the reason he asked for 2 business cards was so that everybody who appeared in front of him, he would recognize and acknowledge by name. Everybody who ever walked into that courtroom, he made them feel comfortable. He made them feel welcome under circumstances that are adversarial. And that's the kind of position I would want to be in as well. The last one, former Superior Court judge, now federal court judge, James Otero, who was the judge who asked me to become a judge pro tem based on my experiences with him, and created the fire in my belly to become a judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weissman. Mr. Abisi?
Yes, I do practice a lot in downtown LA. So I would say people like Judge Melred Recana or Judge Palazuelos. And why is that? Most of my clients have been like the poor middle class, not corporations. Again, I've done a lot of civil cases, a lot of family laws, and the reason that I like those judges is that they have been very fair, impartial, and very decisive. The key is in giving you or having you have your day in court. Now, unless you are rich, you can hire any kind of lawyer you want. The judicial system, is not the easiest place to be in unless you're a corporation. So I've had a chance, and also a judge, Judge Stewart, who is the head of the Judge Pro Tem. I've had a chance to listen to him, get his guidance over the years. Like I said, I've been practicing for 29 years, and the last 20 years as a temporary judge. These are judges, that are fair. They have the right temperament to give you your day in court, listen to your case, and make a decision based on the law and not on who you are or your status in life. That's who I respect.
Thank you, Mr. Abisi. And Mr. Bagdasarian?
Yes, thank you. For me, one of them is the late Justice Antonin Scalia. He represented integrity and judicial restraint. As judges, we're not here to make law, rather to apply the law. And activism is, I'm not sure, something that judges should be doing. Another one, when I used to practice immigration law, we had a judge by the name of Bruce Einhorn, who's retired since. He showed respect, he showed integrity, he was a gentleman, he respected the people who were coming before him, and he showed compassion, even though sometimes he was deporting the individuals, yet he showed compassion towards them. I'd like to emulate those characteristics.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear a question from Erlin Narajos, who is from the Pre-Law Society.
Hello. Hello. There you go. Okay. So what are your views on the need for diversity on the bench and the manner in which the court treats members of different races?
We will begin with Mr. Perez. We'll go to Mr. Abisi by taking in everyone there. Come back to Mr. Bagdasarian and end with Ms. Townsend.
The justice system is here for the people. It's not here to persecute the people, it's here to serve the people. An essential component of serving the people and the justice system is trusting the justice system. If the people in the courtroom, the judge, the attorneys, are not accurate reflections of the community, there's a lack of trust in the judicial system. So diversity is extremely important in order for the people who need to use the judicial system, are either victims or defendants or some other type of parties, trust the judicial system. And the bench should be an accurate reflection of the diversity of the community.
Thank you. Mr. Weissman.
Diversity of the bench is certainly one of a number of factors that I'm sure that the governor considers, and I would certainly think that the electorate would consider when voting for a judge. The other half of the question as to how parties in litigation, whether it's civil, criminal, probate, or what have you, are treated, everyone clearly should be treated equally before the law. The unfortunate reality, as Mr. Bisi somewhat alluded to, is that there are aspects of the world of litigation where unfortunately resources and financial resources in particular do seem to play a role, and it's an unfortunate reality on some level, but certainly not one that a judge should be taking into account. The judge should be considering the people involved and be colorblind to those issues and merely addressing the issues as raised by the parties and by their attorneys, whomever they may be. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Abisi.
Yes, I think diversity is very important. Just like we have a diverse society, it is something that helps promote the judicial as an independent body. In my practice, I've had to represent people that are diverse. It helps, okay, that the judge or the DA or the opposing side, put it this way, it's kind of hard to walk into a courtroom like in a criminal case where everybody is white and we're in a diverse society and you are one of the minorities. I don't think you feel like you're going to get the type of justice you're looking for. It makes sense, okay, that at least some people in there, again, I'm not, playing the race, card here, but if we have qualified candidates, I believe, okay, just like I know it's being done now, the governor is doing that, to appoint judges that will reflect our society, and it helps, okay, promote that we have equal justice for everyone, not just for a few. So I believe it's important, and I believe the governor is doing such a good job in doing that, and I believe, okay, that the voters should also take that into consideration when they go out to vote. Vote for someone who is qualified, not because of the race, but I believe it makes a big difference in the courtroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bagdasarian.
Yes, thank you. It's truly an honor and a privilege for me to be able to run for this position. As an immigrant who came to this country at the age of 14 from Lebanon, this is truly an honor. However, at the same time, Los Angeles County in Southern California represents the second largest Armenian population outside of Armenia. Yet, out of the 587 judges and commissioners in Los Angeles County, there are only 5 judges of Armenian descent. If we are truly serious about diversity, we need to add, the governor needs to add more judges of Armenian descent. I'm doing my small part in this situation by running for this office.
Thank you. Ms. Townsend?
I think one of the greatest, benefits of being employed by a public agency like the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office is that you are moved quite a bit. They force you to go to so many different courthouses throughout the county. And, I've been assigned to everywhere from Inglewood, Huntington Park, and most of my felony experience has been in downtown Los Angeles, which of course includes everybody in LA County. And I think that's been a great asset because when you talk about diversity, you really need to know what your community looks like. I very much agree with the other attorneys on this panel that the branches of government should look like the people they govern. And when you think about what a judge really is at the end of the day, they are the ultimate and most authoritative public figure that is sitting in that courtroom. So, of course, it is naturally, important that we have as many different people pulled from our community serving on the bench. And myself, being a child of immigrant parents and of living the minority experience, I completely agree that that includes all ethnicities, religions, colors, and I think that makes for more trust in the government when people come into these courtrooms seeking remedies, seeking justice.
Thank you. Okay, this next question will be addressed by student Lorena Montero, who is from the Criminal Justice Student Association.
How do you keep up with current events and politics?
For-
How do you keep up with current events and politics?
We will begin with Mr. Weissman, go to Mr. Abisi, come back to Mr. Bagdasarian, and move on to Mr. Perez for a conclusion.
Sometimes these days, running all over the county, I feel as though I don't. However, that said, driving around the county, I'm thankful for the radio and KNX News and the internet and all of the nice things that we have now that help us stay informed. I still do read newspapers. We still subscribe to the LA Daily News, and it is a ritual in my household with my wife of almost 33 years that we sit down at least on Saturdays and Sundays, grab the newspaper off the driveway, and read it together and talk about issues together and see where we agree, where we disagree, and always check out the horoscope. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Abisi.
Yes, for me, it used to be the TV until lately it's all about Donald Trump, every station. So I don't get a chance to watch much TV anymore, not just because of Donald Trump on TV, but because my wife tells me I have to stop watching TV and pay more attention to her son. So between driving from courthouse to courthouse, I do listen to the radio. I listen to MSNBC, or sometimes I go to Fox. If I want to get angry, I listen to Fox. But mostly CNN, and when I get a chance, I do also look at my iPad. But believe me, during the day, it's very hard to run an office and at the same time volunteer as a temporary judge. So I don't get a chance to watch much news, but when I do, and sit down to relax at home with my wife sleep, I do and look at MSNBC and CNN.
Thank you. Mr. Bagdasarian.
Yes, thank you. I have 2 young kids, so the only time I have the time to watch TV is after 11 o'clock at night. So by that time, news programs are all over. So I catch up usually I end up watching Charlie Rose on a regular basis. I try to catch up and read online newspapers, as well as listen to the radio in the car. And for a global perspective, on a regular basis, I read the Financial Times, which gives me a lot of different perspective from European sources and Asian sources.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Townsend.
Well, the internet, right? We live by the internet. So that obviously I spend a lot of time, if I'm learning the news from different news outlets there. Also in our office, they do provide daily copies of the Daily Journal, which is a legal newspaper that many attorneys will read on to update them on cases that have either been decided or are upcoming. And, I think that's actually a very good question, Ms. Montero, because, an aspect about being a judge is it's extremely social. When you think about what it takes for a judge to sort of rein in parties sometimes, and it can be extremely adversarial, and sometimes you're dealing with jurors, people with no legal background, and I think it is important to be on top of current trends and also in the news, because you have to somehow make these people comfortable in a courtroom, and sometimes the discussion and talking about tidbits of the current events puts jurors at ease. They maybe make a joke about something, that they saw in an award show or something like that, and it just goes to prove, we're all human, and, the news is something we all are interested in. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Perez?
Similar to most of everybody here, I followed it on the internet mostly. Read the different CNN, MSNBC. I also watch CNN, Fox, MSN at home. I also keep up to date on a lot of current events with my friends and family members, and specifically my son. He's a freshman at Whittier College and a political science major. And so if I've missed any current event every day, we have at least an hour discussion about politics and other current events. Very interesting conversations with him, and he keeps me up to date if I missed anything on either MSNBC or the internet or the radio.
Okay, thank you. Would the panel like to address one more question, Mr. Brooks, or?
We have one more. Computers are replacing humans all across the world. Do you think computers will be able to replace judges? Why or why not?
We'll begin with Mr. Abisi.
Hopefully not soon. I don't think so. I think you still need a judge you still need to have someone who is impartial, to listen to both sides. And I don't think we have a computer that would do that. So I don't think they're going to replace judges, and they should not. It needs a human touch. Someone that is very fair, impartial, will listen to the facts and make a decision, again, based on the facts and the law, and not based on the status of the person that is in front of the judge, based on race and sex. And I don't know if they're going to create a computer that be able to do so, at least for now. So no, I do not think it's going to replace judges. But if it does, I hope it has all those qualities. And to be something that be very fair, impartial, and then listen to the facts and make a decision, again, based on the law and not just based on race, sex, or status in life.
Okay. Mr. Bagdasarian.
No. You need the human touch. You need to be able, you need the reasoning of a fair and impartial judge to listen to the facts and apply the law. Apply the law. You need that impartiality for that same judge. This is not something that you can program into a computer where things go in and here comes the outcome of a fair judgment. I'm not sure that can be doable. It should be doable. You need the human touch, you need the impartiality, you need the integrity of the jurist.
Thank you. Ms. Townsend.
Well, if we were to replace judges with computers, I hope it's nothing like when I try to call my bank or my cell phone and try to change my data subscription every month, because that would be maddening. No, I mean, it's kind of like what I mentioned earlier. You know, a big part of being a judge is, again, that social experience. You have to be a people's person for this job. You absolutely do. Like I said, you're not only dealing with, you know, people who are accused of crimes, witnesses, jurors, a court staff, you know, the court reporter, law enforcement, and there's just so many different components. And if the people who are coming into a court are going to have faith in that process, you know, the least we can do is give them the respect and dignity of the attention of a learned jurist to preside over such matters. And, you know, I've been in plenty of jury trials, and I've spent almost every day, if not every week, in a courtroom. And there's just so many things, especially in a trial, when it just goes sideways. And things are unexpected, things go out of it's life, it's imperfect. And you just have to have experienced people who know how to deal with the situation to make sure that the process was fair. And so hopefully my answer is, I hope it never happens.
Thank you. Mr. Perez.
Well, the short answer is no. Having worked for the county for quite a bit now, one of the things that Judge Bonner had talked about was incorruptible. Well, our computers in the county are very corruptible. They oftentimes don't work, and we don't want judges that don't work. Another important characteristic that a judge must have is empathy. Too often, some judges are robotic, but we'd like to think that they have empathy for everyone in the courtroom. And think about, no one wants to be in a courtroom. Maybe the attorneys do, but if it's a criminal case, the defendant doesn't want to be there, the victim doesn't want to be there, the jurors usually don't want to be there. If it's a civil case, someone has been wronged and they're suing. If it's an unlawful detainer action, those are lives that we're dealing with, someone's liberty. You need empathy for that. We talked about diversity. Having that diversity gives you that empathy. Having a human being up there who has life experiences as well as work experiences gives you that empathy and that ability to understand what people are going through. And our job is making sure that justice is served. A computer can't do that.
Thank you. Mr. Weissman?
Again, short answer, obviously, is no. First place my mind went was to the Wizard of Oz. You need a brain, a heart, and nerve, as did the characters in the Wizard of Oz. They were lacking. I was taught as a judge pro tem that one thing you have to view yourself as a judge is simply and humbly as a service provider. You want everyone who walks into a courtroom, as uncomfortable as it is, as Mr. Perez pointed out, nobody other than well-paid lawyers really wants to be there. But you want to give a comfort level. And maybe more importantly, you want everyone walking out of that courtroom, win, lose, or draw, whether it's, quite honestly, whether it's the attorneys, whether it's the parties, whether it's the jurors, and the staff. To feel as though at the end of the day, their needs have been met and they've been heard. Like I said, win, lose, or draw. The experience, especially in small claims court, you find that even when a party loses, they feel they've been heard, they walk out somewhat satisfied. And that's what we need to do, and that's certainly something a computer can't do. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have time for a question from the audience. And I have one, and this will be a 60-second question. Timers. The bench is heavily comprised of former prosecutors. Does this lack of diversity in legal experience concern you? Should it concern the electorate? And we will begin with Mr. Perez. We will work our way to Mr. Bagdasarian, go to Mr. Abisi, and end with Mr. Weissman.
There are a lot of former prosecutors on the bench. Prosecutors take their mission as prosecutors very seriously. Our job, our vocation is to seek justice every day from a position as an advocate. As an advocate, we have a lot of trial experience. We develop skills that are going to be necessary to be an effective and fair judge I would take that experience and that sense of perspective of justice, of trying to do the right thing, and as a bench officer, make sure that justice is done, not from a position as an advocate, but as a bench officer. I think it's just a continuation of what we do as prosecutors throughout our career.
Thank you. Ms. Townsend?
Yes, you know, when people bring that up, I would agree with Mr. Perez. I think when you become a prosecutor, at least in the LA County DA's office, I have never viewed my job ever as winning or losing. I have always looked at every single case I have ever handled as a question of seeking justice. Was justice sought? So I think for many prosecutors, if that is, you know, if that's your belief, then making that transition into being a judge is pretty easy, because you're doing the same thing. You're making sure justice is sought. It's different, of course, being a jurist, but the trial experience that comes with being a part of a large prosecutorial agency obviously prepares people on to be fluent in the court process. But I would also say, some of the fairest judges I've ever been in front of, absolutely for you, I would never have known what they did in their former life. They were former criminal defense attorneys. So, I mean, I think making that transition from an advocate to a jurist, that's the most essential part, and regardless of whether you're a prosecutor or defense attorney.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. Mr. Bagdasarian?
Yes, thank you. Yes, there are a lot of deputy DAs on the bench, as well as attorneys from large law firms that the governor has appointed. What the bench requires, in my opinion, are attorneys who have small law firm experience, small community experience, diverse experiences dealing with various communities and various types of laws, not just criminal or large civil cases. I believe someone like me does bring that richness of experience to the bench, along with the other experience I've had dealing with different people from different countries and having experiences legal matters in other countries as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Abisi?
Yes, I think it makes a difference. Again, just like you have to bring your life experience, having had a chance to practice in different areas, like I've done criminal defense for 29 years, I've done family law, I've done civil law, I have practiced in different counties, not just in LA County, from San Francisco to Oakland to San Diego, and of course in LA County. It does help to come to the bench with not just your life experience, but having had a chance to practice in different areas. I think it helps you, because I know some of the judges that are being sent from the criminal court down to the civil court or vice versa, and I think it helps that if you have a broad experience, not just in criminal law, that it does help in what you do as a judge in the courtroom.
Thank you. And Mr. Wiseman?
I've been teased in our race for seat 84 as being the anti-DA, as the only civil attorney in the group, and it's not entirely true. God bless the DAs for doing what they do. They help as a part of the process of keeping the public safe, and we need that, and we do need diversity on the bench in every way, shape, and form that we've talked about. I bring a different sense of things. Born and raised in LA, spent my whole life here, practicing throughout LA County, San Bernardino County, Riverside County, Santa Barbara County, all of Southern California, a little bit up north. You know, to pigeonhole and just say there are too many DAs on the bench, and I'm probably guilty of having said it a couple of times myself, it shouldn't matter. You look at the qualifications, you look at the people, and you make a decision based on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we have come to the point where we need to kind of wrap this up. And we have a closing statement from each candidate. For the closing statements, we will begin with Mr. Abisi, and we will work our way down the panel in reverse order from our opening statements. Mr. Abisi.
Again, thank you all for hosting us tonight. Again, my name is Javier Perez. I did migrate from Nigeria so many years ago, went to college in Miami, and then went to Pepperdine Law School. And I've been practicing law for almost 30 years, 29 years plus. Like I said before, I have practiced law in just about most counties here, from San Francisco to Oakland to Riverside, LA County, Santa Barbara. And in the last 29 years, I've been privileged and honored to have served for the LA County Superior Court as a temporary judge, which have given me the chance to sit on a bench and make decisions after having had a chance to listen to the people in front of me. I'm running for this seat because I believe in what I do. I've had best time in the last 20 years as a temporary judge. I'd like to, this June 7, make that permanent, no longer a temporary judge. I thank you all for, again, giving us the chance to appear before you and answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abisi. Next, Mr. Aaron Weissman.
Thanks to everyone for coming out. Everybody's got busy schedules, and I think we all appreciate you taking the time to come out and hear us out here. It's good for the process, and it's necessary. And to the organizations who put these forums on, for allowing us to get in front of you and you to get in front of us. It's a difficult process. So many people haven't got a clue when they look at the judges' names on a ballot. So this is important, and we appreciate your time. After 35 years of practicing law, to me, stepping to the bench with the experience that I've had over the years is a natural step in what I see as a natural progression in my professional development. I've had the pleasure of wearing a robe, dealing with esoteric matters in the civil world for years, writing decisions, writing opinions, and thoroughly enjoy it. I've also served as a mediator and arbitrator for over 20 years and like helping bring people together to resolve matters. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Weissman. Javier Perez.
I'd also like to applaud everyone here. It's significant that you spent the time to be informed about, quite honestly, something that's going to be at the end of the ballot, although it's a very important position. I spent over 25 years as an attorney in the office trying serious, violent cases. But I've also been a supervisor of the two of the busiest area courts in Los Angeles County, supervising over 45 different attorneys, dealing with victims, witnesses, law enforcement. I have the legal knowledge, the temperament, and the courage to make difficult decisions. I do it every day, and I'll continue to do it as a bench officer. And I hope you come out and vote June 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Susan Jung Townsend.
I too would like to thank all of you for putting on this great forum, because I'm hoping you are the people who actually finish voting on the ballot on June 7th and do not abandon it midway through. Having been born and raised in Los Angeles my entire life by immigrant parents, they always taught me the greatest respect you can give back to your community is serving your community. I've spent the last 18 years just doing that. And it's been a great ride. I have enjoyed every minute of it. But I do believe that I am at a point in my career to take on a more authoritative role. And I have worked very hard towards that. I'm a grade 4 in the office, which is at the highest rank outside of management. And because I've always been on the front lines, I very much feel comfortable being in the courtroom, which is why I believe I have been endorsed by the LA Times, by the Met News. Also, over 100 Superior Court judges whose job I am trying to seek have endorsed me as well. I believe that the experience that I have gained will serve the people of LA County well, and I welcome your support on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. And Stepan Bagdasarian.
Okay. Once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. Great to be here. I bring 27 years of legal and life experiences to this position. I've been a resident of San Fernando Valley for the last 40 years. I'm a graduate of Grant High School, UCLA, and subsequently Whittier Law School. I have the integrity, I have the temperament, I have the knowledge, I have the patience to do what is required of this job. I appreciate your support on June 7th, and check out my website as well, Bagdasarian for Judge. Check out our Facebook page, Bagdasarian for Judge, and our Twitter page, Stepan for Judge. And as I always end these meetings or panels, I always say, look for the longest name on the ballot. That would be me, Steppenbach Desarian. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all very much for being here and for presenting your views and your positions on running for a judge and sharing with us. I'd like to thank again the student associations who helped put forth a huge amount of energy to get this event to come together. It was a big, big job, and they did a wonderful job of providing this. Thank you.